Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her back against the cold metal wall of the research station, her breath coming in short gasps. The alien woman floated before her, suspended in what appeared to be empty air, her ethereal blue skin shimmering under the harsh fluorescent lights. Moments ago, this being had been graceful, moving with the fluid elegance of someone who had never known the burden of gravity. Now she writhed in apparent distress, her long limbs flailing as if fighting against invisible chains. "What is happening to me?" the alien woman gasped, her voice carrying strange harmonics that made Sarah's teeth ache. I cannot maintain my equilibrium. Everything spins. Everything falls." Sarah watched in fascination and growing horror as the being who called herself Zephyra struggled against something she had never experienced in her 300 years of life. The ethereal race, as humanity had named them, existed in the vast spaces between stars, their bodies naturally adapted to zero-gravity environments. They had no concept of weight, no understanding of the constant downward pull that every human child learned to fight from their first breath. The contact had been accidental. Sarah's deep space research vessel, the Meridian, had been conducting routine gravity wave experiments near the edge of human space when they encountered the ethereal ship. It was a thing of impossible beauty, constructed from what appeared to be crystallized starlight and cosmic radiation. No solid matter, no traditional propulsion, just pure energy given form and purpose. First contact protocols demanded caution, but Zephyra had seemed genuinely curious about humanity. She had agreed to come aboard the Meridian, her form solidifying just enough to interact with their physical environment. Sarah had been chosen as the primary contact specialist due to her expertise in xenobiology and her calm demeanor under pressure. The cultural exchange had been proceeding well until Sarah made what she thought was a simple gesture of hospitality. She had offered Zephyra a tour of the ship's gravity ring, explaining how humans used artificial gravity to maintain their health during long space voyages. The alien had been intrigued by the concept, having never experienced anything like it. "Your species creates its own cosmic anchor?" Zephyra had asked. Her voice filled with wonder. "You bind yourselves to an artificial celestial body?" Sarah had laughed at the poetic description. "Something like that. We're not really built for zero gravity long term. Our bodies need the constant resistance, the downward pull. It keeps our bones strong, our circulation healthy." Zephyra had requested to experience this artificial gravity for herself. Sarah had hesitated, but the alien had insisted. "I wish to understand how your people have conquered the emptiness between worlds," she had said. "How you have learned to carry your home with you wherever you travel." Now, as Sarah watched Zephyra struggle against the artificial gravity field, she realized the magnitude of her mistake. The ethereal woman was not simply experiencing discomfort or novelty. Her entire being was designed for the weightless void between stars. Gravity was not just foreign to her, it was actively harmful, like forcing a creature of pure energy into a physical cage. "Turn it off!" Zephyra pleaded, her form beginning to flicker and distort. "Please, make it stop. I am being pulled apart." Sarah lunged for the gravity control panel, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Zephyra's form, which had been solidified through her own incredible will and control, began to lose cohesion. Parts of her started to fade in and out of visibility, as if she was struggling to maintain her physical manifestation against the unrelenting downward force. "I cannot return to my ship," Zephyra whispered, her voice growing weaker. "The gravity field has disrupted my quantum coherence. I am trapped in this form. But this form cannot survive in your environment." Sarah's mind raced as she analyzed the situation. The gravity field had somehow interfered with Zephyra's natural state of being. The ethereals existed as quantum entities, their consciousness distributed across energy patterns that spanned vast distances. The artificial gravity had forced Zephyra to compress her essence into a single point, disrupting her ability to exist in her natural dispersed state. But humans had been dealing with hostile environments for millennia. Every challenge was just another problem to solve, another obstacle to overcome through ingenuity and determination. Sarah pulled up the ship's bioscanners and began analyzing Zephyra's energy patterns, looking for any way to help stabilize her condition. "Don't give up," Sarah said firmly. "We did this to you, which means we can fix it. Humans don't leave problems unsolved." Zephyra's eyes, which seemed to contain swirling galaxies, focused on Sarah with desperate hope. "Your species truly believes they can repair anything? We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the vacuum of space itself," Sarah replied, her fingers flying over the control interfaces. "We've learned to thrive in environments that should have killed us 1,000 times over. We'll figure this out." As if responding to Sarah's confidence, Zephyra's form stabilized slightly. She was still clearly struggling, but the immediate crisis seemed to have passed. Sarah began running diagnostic after diagnostic, mapping the alien's energy signature and comparing it to known quantum field patterns. The solution, when it came to her, was typically human in its audacity and simplicity. If gravity was disrupting Zephyra's quantum coherence, then they needed to create a localized field that could counteract those effects. Not anti-gravity, which was beyond current human technology, but something that could provide a buffer zone where Zephyra could exist comfortably. Sarah began modifying the ship's gravity generators, creating a complex pattern of overlapping fields that would essentially create pockets of variable gravitational intensity. It was a theoretical concept she had worked on years ago, designed to help human athletes train in different gravity conditions. "What are you doing?" Zephyra asked, watching Sarah work with growing amazement. "Adapting," Sarah replied without looking up from her work. "It's what we do best. We take environments that want to kill us and make them livable, usually through stubbornness and creative engineering." The modifications took hours to implement, with Sarah working steadily while Zephyra fought to maintain her coherence. Other crew members offered to help, but Sarah knew she was the only one who understood both the gravitational systems and Zephyra's unique physiology well enough to make the necessary adjustments. As the new field patterns came online, Zephyra's expression changed from pain to wonder. The chaotic pull of gravity smoothed out into something more manageable, a gentle ebb and flow that her quantum nature could adapt to rather than fight against. "You have created islands of stability in your ocean of force," Zephyra breathed, her form beginning to glow with renewed vitality. "I can feel my coherence returning." Sarah allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction. "Welcome to human space. We specialize in making the impossible merely improbable." But even as Zephyra began to recover, Sarah realized that this was only the beginning. The alien woman was still far from her normal state, and the modified gravity field was just a temporary solution. They needed to find a way to completely reverse the damage that had been done, and that would require understanding ethereal physiology on a level that no human had ever attempted before. The challenge ahead was enormous, but Sarah felt the familiar surge of determination that had driven her species to spread across the galaxy. They had turned a first contact disaster into a learning opportunity, and now they would turn that knowledge into a solution. It was, she reflected, a very human way to handle the situation. 3 days had passed since Sarah's emergency modifications to the gravity field, and the research station had transformed into something resembling a cross between a hospital and a physics laboratory. Zephyra remained stable but weak, her ethereal form confined to the carefully calibrated gravity pockets that Sarah had created throughout the ship. The alien woman moved slowly between these safe zones, each step a conscious effort that reminded everyone aboard of the severity of her condition. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood in the observation deck, watching as Sarah worked alongside Zephyra in the main laboratory. The sight still amazed him. 48 hours ago, they had been on the verge of an intergalactic diplomatic incident. Now, human and alien worked side by side, combining their respective knowledge to solve a problem that neither species had ever encountered before. "Status report, Dr. Chen," Marcus said through the comm system. Sarah looked up from a complex array of sensors that she had rigged around Zephyra's current position. "We're making progress, Captain. Zephyra has been teaching me about quantum consciousness distribution, and I've been showing her how we use magnetic field manipulation to counteract gravitational effects. It's like learning two different languages of physics at the same time." Zephyra moved to another sensor array, her movements more fluid than they had been the day before. "Your species possesses an remarkable ability to conceptualize solutions to problems they have never encountered," she said, her harmonious voice carrying clearly through the lab speakers. "In my 3 centuries of existence, I have never witnessed such rapid adaptation." Sarah grinned as she adjusted another calibration setting. "Wait until you see what we can do when we really get motivated. We once figured out how to split atoms just because we were curious about what was inside them. Nearly blew ourselves up in the process, but we learned from that too." The breakthrough had come when Zephyra explained that her people existed as distributed consciousness across vast networks of quantum-entangled particles. Their physical forms were merely focal points where they concentrated their awareness when they needed to interact with solid matter. The artificial gravity had disrupted these quantum connections, essentially trapping part of Zephyra's consciousness in a single location while cutting her off from the rest of herself. "Imagine if someone suddenly blocked all the neural pathways in your brain except for a small cluster of neurons," Zephyra had explained. "You would still be alive, but you would be diminished, incomplete. That is what your gravity field has done to me." The solution required understanding quantum mechanics on a level that pushed human knowledge to its limits. Sarah had spent sleepless nights poring over theoretical papers and consulting with physicists across human space via quantum communication links. The ship's AI had been running calculations continuously, modeling quantum field interactions with a complexity that would have been impossible just decades earlier. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Engineer Tommy Park, a young man who had joined the mission straight from the Mars Technical Institute, approached Sarah with what he called a crazy idea. "Dr. Chen," Tommy said, his voice hesitant but determined. "I've been thinking about Zephyra's problem, and it reminds me of something we dealt with in engineering school. When we were learning about quantum computer networks, we had a similar issue with maintaining coherence across distributed processing units." Sarah looked up from her calculations, intrigued despite her exhaustion. "Go on." "Well, we solved it by creating bridge connections, small quantum tunnels that could maintain entanglement, even when the main network was disrupted. What if we could create something similar for Zephyra? Artificial quantum bridges that could help her reconnect with her distributed consciousness?" The idea was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to completely restore Zephyra's natural state, they would create technological assists that could compensate for the disrupted connections. It was an approach that was distinctly human, using technology to overcome biological limitations. Zephyra was skeptical at first. "You propose to supplement my natural quantum matrix with artificial constructs? The complexity required would be enormous." "Complexity has never stopped us before," Sarah replied confidently. "We've been building artificial neural networks for centuries. A quantum consciousness network is just scaling up the concept." The construction phase took another day, with the entire crew contributing their expertise. The ship's fabrication units worked overtime to create the necessary quantum field generators, while the navigation team calculated the precise positioning needed to avoid interference with ship systems. Even the cook, Maria Santos, contributed by developing a specialized nutrient solution that could help Zephyra maintain her physical form during the procedure. "This is madness," Zephyra whispered, as the team prepared to activate the quantum bridge network. "No species has ever attempted to augment ethereal consciousness with artificial systems." Captain Rodriguez placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Dr. Chen, are you certain about this? If something goes wrong, then we'll figure out how to fix that too," Sarah replied firmly. "It's what we do. Besides, Zephyra trusts us enough to let us try. The least we can do is live up to that trust." As the quantum bridges came online, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Zephyra's form, which had been flickering and unstable for days, suddenly blazed with renewed energy. Her eyes, those swirling galaxies of light, expanded and brightened as she reconnected with parts of her consciousness that had been isolated since the accident. "I can feel myself again," she breathed, her voice gaining strength and clarity. "The artificial bridges are actually enhancing my natural abilities. How is this possible?" Sarah monitored the readings with growing excitement. "The quantum tunnels we created are more stable than your natural connections. They're providing a stronger foundation for your consciousness network. It's like we accidentally gave you a cognitive upgrade. But the most remarkable change was in how Zephyra moved through the ship. The gravity that had once threatened to tear her apart now seemed to flow around her like water around a stone. The artificial quantum bridges allowed her to maintain her coherence while adapting to the physical environment in ways that pure ethereal biology never could. "You have done something unprecedented," Zephyra said, her form now radiating a soft, steady light. "You have created a hybrid existence, neither fully ethereal nor entirely artificial, but something new, something better." Tommy Park watched the readings with wonder. "The quantum bridges are learning, adapting to optimize the connection patterns. It's like they're becoming part of her natural biology." "That's impossible," said Dr. Kim, the ship's chief physicist. "Artificial quantum systems can't achieve that level of integration." "Tell that to the readouts," Sarah replied with a grin. "Sometimes the universe doesn't care what we think is impossible." As the day progressed, Zephyra's confidence grew. She began moving freely throughout the ship, no longer confined to the carefully controlled gravity pockets. The quantum bridges had given her something that no ethereal had ever possessed: the ability to exist comfortably in both the weightless void of space and the gravitational environments preferred by solid matter species. "You have not just healed me," Zephyra told Sarah as they stood together in the observation deck, watching stars wheel slowly past the ship's windows. "You have evolved me, made me something more than I was before." Sarah considered this soberly. "We've changed you in ways we don't fully understand yet. Are you okay with that?" Zephyra's laugh was like music played on crystal chimes. "Dr. Chen, your species has spent its entire existence changing things they don't fully understand. You learned to harness fire before you understood combustion. You built flying machines before you understood aerodynamics. You split atoms before you understood nuclear physics. Each time you adapted and learned and became more than you were before." "True," Sarah admitted. "We do have a tendency to leap first and figure out the physics later." "And that," Zephyra said, turning to face her with those galaxy-bright eyes, "is precisely why I believe our species can learn much from each other. You have shown me what is possible when intelligence refuses to accept limitations as permanent. Now I must return to my people and share what I have learned." The thought of Zephyra leaving brought an unexpected pang of loss. Over the past few days, Sarah had grown to deeply respect the alien woman's perspective and wisdom, but she also realized that this was not an ending. It was the beginning of something much larger. 6 months later, the Meridian approached the coordinates that Zephyra had provided before her departure. Sarah stood at the main viewport, watching in awe as the ethereal fleet materialized out of what had appeared to be empty space. Dozens of ships constructed from crystallized energy formed complex geometric patterns against the star field, their beauty almost painful to human eyes, adapted to more mundane materials. But it was the ship at the center of the formation that took Sarah's breath away. Zephyr's vessel had been transformed, incorporating design elements that were unmistakably human in origin. Solid matter components intertwined with pure energy constructs, creating a hybrid architecture that spoke of two species working together to create something entirely new. "Incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Lisa Park, Tommy's sister who had joined the crew for this historic mission. "It's Zephyra." The holographic display shimmered to life, and Zephyra's familiar form appeared before them. But she was not alone. 3 other ethereals floated beside her, their expressions curious and welcoming rather than the wariness Sarah had expected from first contact. "Dr. Chen, Captain Rodriguez, welcome to the convergence point," Zephyra said, her voice carrying the same musical harmonics, but somehow more substantial than before. "My people are eager to meet the species that taught one of their own to exist between worlds." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his dress uniform crisp and formal. "The honor is ours, Zephyra. We come in peace, hoping to build understanding between our peoples." One of the other ethereals moved closer to the transmission field, her form shimmering with what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. "You are the ones who created the quantum bridge technology? The innovation that allows consciousness to exist in multiple states simultaneously?" Sarah felt a familiar thrill of scientific curiosity. "That's correct. Though I should mention that we've made significant improvements since Zephyra returned to you. Working together, we've developed applications we never imagined possible." "Show them the colony project data," Zephyra suggested, her form brightening with enthusiasm. The past 6 months had been the most productive period of Sarah's career. Working from Zephyra's descriptions and the quantum bridge schematics, human scientists had developed technology that revolutionized their approach to space colonization. The quantum consciousness transfer systems allowed human settlers to maintain awareness across vast distances, coordinating colony development in ways that had never been possible before. "We've established 3 new colonies using hybrid consciousness distribution," Sarah explained as the data streams appeared on the shared display. "Settlers can exist simultaneously in their physical bodies and in quantum coordination networks, allowing them to work together across entire star systems." The ethereal who had spoken earlier, introduced as Harmony of Distant Suns, studied the data with growing amazement. "You have taken our natural abilities and enhanced them with technological precision. Your people exist in individual bodies, yet you have learned to share consciousness as we do. This is unprecedented." "That's not even the best part," Tommy Park interjected, earning himself a sharp look from Captain Rodriguez for speaking out of turn. But his excitement was infectious, and even the captain found himself smiling. "Go ahead, Engineer Park," Rodriguez said. "Show them Project Symbiosis." The next set of data displays showed something that still amazed Sarah every time she saw it. Human volunteers working alongside ethereals who had undergone the quantum bridge enhancement. Their consciousnesses linked in temporary networks that combined human intuition and problem-solving abilities with ethereal quantum perception and energy manipulation. "We've been able to solve engineering problems in minutes that would have taken our separate species weeks to figure out," Sarah explained. "The hybrid consciousness networks allow us to share not just information, but actual thought processes and perceptual abilities." Zephyra gestured to her companions. "Harmony of Distant Suns was the first of our people to volunteer for the quantum bridge enhancement after I returned. The experience transformed her understanding of what consciousness could become." Harmony's form pulsed with soft light as she spoke. "I have experienced existence through solid matter perception. I have felt the resistance of gravity, the pressure of atmosphere, the weight of physical form. It has given me an appreciation for the challenges your people overcome simply by existing. But more than that, it has shown me possibilities I never imagined. Another ethereal, identifying herself as Echo of Empty Spaces, moved forward. The quantum bridges allow us to anchor ourselves in physical environments while maintaining our distributed nature. We can now explore worlds with solid surfaces, interact with matter-based technologies, and collaborate with species we could never approach before. And for us, Sarah added, the consciousness-sharing abilities have opened up entirely new fields of research. We're learning to perceive reality through quantum senses, to manipulate energy fields directly through thought, to exist in a distributed state while maintaining individual identity. Captain Rodriguez studied the assembled ethereals thoughtfully. This level of integration between our species, it's moving very quickly. Are your people comfortable with such rapid change? Echo of Empty Spaces responded with what Sarah had learned to recognize as ethereal laughter, a shimmering cascade of harmonics. Captain Rodriguez, your species has taught us that adaptation is not just possible but essential for growth. We have spent millennia existing in the spaces between stars, content with our isolation. But you have shown us that consciousness can be more than individual awareness. It can be shared, enhanced, evolved. The quantum bridge technology is just the beginning, Zafira added. We have proposals for joint research stations, hybrid colonies where both species can exist comfortably, and exploration missions to regions of space that neither of our people could investigate alone. Sarah felt a surge of excitement that reminded her of her first day in graduate school, when the universe had seemed full of infinite possibilities waiting to be discovered. What kind of exploration missions? The galactic core region, Harmony explained, her form brightening with enthusiasm. It's too dangerous for purely physical beings due to the radiation and gravitational distortions, but too chaotic for purely energy beings to maintain coherence. But hybrid consciousness, anchored by quantum bridges and enhanced by matter-based technology, could survive and function in environments that would destroy either of our species individually, Sarah finished, her mind already racing with the possibilities. Tommy Park looked up from his readings with wide eyes. Are you talking about exploring inside active black holes? The energy levels there could power entire civilizations if we could figure out how to harness them safely. Echo's form shimmered with what Sarah interpreted as approval. Your engineer understands the implications quickly. This is precisely the kind of thinking that makes human ethereal collaboration so valuable. Over the next several hours, the two crews shared data, theories, and plans that grew increasingly ambitious. The quantum bridge technology that had begun as an emergency medical procedure was evolving into the foundation for a new kind of civilization, one that combined the best aspects of matter-based and energy-based existence. There is something else, Zephyra said as the formal presentations concluded. Something my people voted to offer yours as a gesture of our partnership. The holographic display shifted to show technical specifications that made Sarah's breath catch. It was a complete schematic for ethereal consciousness distribution technology, but modified to work with human neural architecture. You're offering to teach us how to become distributed beings? Sarah asked, hardly believing what she was seeing. Not to replace your individual nature, Harmony clarified, but to enhance it. Humans could maintain their personal identity while also participating in shared consciousness networks. You would become more than individual, but never less than yourself. Captain Rodriguez looked at Sarah with a mixture of excitement and concern. Dr. Chen, what are the implications of something like this? Sarah studied the specifications, her scientific training warring with her amazement at the possibilities. Theoretically, it would allow humans to exist across multiple locations simultaneously, share knowledge and experiences directly, and coordinate activities across vast distances in real time. We could explore the galaxy not as individual ships and colonies, but as an integrated network of human consciousness. And when combined with ethereal quantum perception and energy manipulation abilities, Echo added, both species would become capable of things that neither could achieve alone. The risks? Rodriguez asked, ever the cautious commander. Unknown, Sarah admitted honestly. We'd be changing what it means to be human on a fundamental level. But then again, we've been doing that since we first picked up tools and learned to use fire. Zephyra's form moved closer to the transmission field, her galaxy-bright eyes focusing on Sarah with intensity. Dr. Chen, your species taught me that limitations exist only in the mind. You showed me that consciousness could be enhanced, expanded, evolved. Now we offer you the same opportunity. The choice, as always, is yours. Sarah looked around the bridge at her crewmates, seeing the same mixture of wonder and determination that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place. They stood on the threshold of a transformation that would change both species forever, a step into an unknown future that promised wonders beyond imagination. Well, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment, humanity has never been known for taking the safe path. When do we begin? As if in response to her words, both fleets began moving toward the convergence point, human ships and ethereal constructs intermingling in a complex dance that spoke of partnership and possibility. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time in either species' history, they would face it together, as something more than the sum of their parts. The quantum bridges hummed with new frequencies, carrying consciousness and dreams across the void between stars, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength was not in what they were, but in what they could become.